welcome to How to Get a Dream Internship, an event series from Adobe, where we chat with special guests about how they are achieving their dream careers. If we're just meeting, I'm your host, Grace Hathaway, and I'm a community engagement specialist here at Adobe. Shout out to everyone in the chat with us. Let us know where you're all tuning in from, and feel free to connect with each other and me and all of our panelists on LinkedIn. Panelists, where are y'all tuning in from?
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm a current student at Columbia, and I'm tuning in from New York City tonight.
I'm Ridha. I'm tuning in from Wellesley, Massachusetts.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sabeen. I'm tuning in from New York.
And hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline. I'm also tuning in from New York.
Awesome. Let's see where everyone in the chat is from. We have Pittsburgh. Oh, I see some of my student ambassadors in here. Hey, Jamie. Hi, Talaya. Hi, everybody. Hey, Jordan. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce our lovely panelists. Today, we are joined by Ridha Mirza, Jacqueline Sun, Matthew Mugweru, and Sabeen Khan. These are all amazing students or recent grads that have landed their dream internships on Wallstreet. And we will be doing a Q&A session, and then they'll show us some of the cool projects they made with Adobe Express. As usual, wait, I'm going to pause real quick because we have some more people who are tuning in. Lisa, she's from Reno. Hope you're feeling okay. Serbia, I haven't seen that one yet. San Jose, hey, Lyric. Michigan, Ann Arbor, Maryland, Indiana. Kate Riordan, you're an ambassador, I think. Hey, everybody. Okay, cool. I want to tell you about our special challenge for today. As always, we have a cool challenge for you. We have an Adobe Express template for you to try out and some fun giveaways, of course. Here is how it works. So you're going to go to the Adobe Express logo template that Elizabeth is dropping in the chat. Change it up, personalize it, remix it, and post your project to your LinkedIn profile page as a post, and tag hashtag Adobe Dream Internship and hashtag Express It. Drop a link to your post in the chat here by the end of the event, and everyone today to share it in the chat will get a special code for an Adobe tote, and out of that group, 4 lucky attendees will be randomly selected for a one-on-one mentoring session with Ridha, Jacqueline, Matthew, or Sabeen, and a year of free Creative Cloud. So everyone who does this challenge today is getting a free tote and a chance to win a mentoring session in Creative Cloud. Reminder that right now we can only ship merch within the US, but you can still have a chance for the Creative Cloud and mentoring session if you're outside of the US. I am going to show y'all a demo, of course, about how I used this template. So it's really quick today, but I wanted to show you how I remixed it. So here is the template. I'm going to go in and replace with my initials. And I like to have my middle initial in mine too, which is GLH. And then I'm going to go in and change the font to something I like. I think this font is really good for business and financial. So if you're in those fields, use that font. I'm a little more creative, so I'm going to switch it up and use a little bit more of a creative font and then move my letters around. I kind of want to make them look like they're all connected, like they're almost one long line. So that's what I was doing there. And then I'm going to change up my title. I'm a creative producer on the side of my Adobe job. So I'm going to put that title in and just kind of change up the font, make sure it looks good, and then go into my design assets and pick a light bulb. I thought that this could use a little extra visual to show what a creative thinker I am. And I'm going to go in and, as always, change up the colors. Y'all already know that template was a little too bland for my taste, but this is still neutral for me. And then reminder, if you have a design asset in there, you can actually go in and change the color of that. You just select it and then hit the eyedropper, and you can change it to any color you want. I like to change it to a color that's already in my graphic to make it all cohesive. And then I'm going to hit start download, and it downloads to my desktop, and I can use it for whatever I want. You can also hit that share button up in the right-hand corner, and you can share it to any social that you have connected to Adobe Express. So there's a quick little demo for you about how I used that template that we're dropping in the chat. Reminder, all you have to do is go to that template that we dropped in the chat, change it up, personalize it, post the project to your LinkedIn profile page with those hashtags, and then drop a link to your post in the chat here by the end of the event. All right, panelists, are you ready for some questions? I feel like you are by your smiling faces. I got a thumbs up. Cool. Let's get into it. First, I would love for you all to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about yourself.
I can start off. My name is Ridha. I'm a senior at Babson College, which is in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I'm studying computational finance, and I'm originally from Austin, Texas. And a bit more about myself, I interned at Morgan Stanley the last 2 summers in the wealth management division. And I'm just really passionate about various things in life, including art. I like creating content on the side, and I do a lot of random odd jobs too at college.
I'll go next. Hi, my name is Matthew Mugweru. I'm a current student at Columbia University. I'm studying financial economics as well as film and media studies. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, and next summer I'll be interning in the investment banking division at Morgan Stanley as well. And some things about me, I really love producing short films on the side of my studies, as well as traveling and trying a lot of different foods around New York City. So I'm really excited to be here today.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name's Sabeen. I graduated from the University of Michigan back in 2021. I'm currently a second-year analyst in the investment banking division at Bank of America out of New York City. And it's been a really great opportunity so far. I interned and came back for full-time. So outside of work, I'm also, similar to Ridha, very interested in like TikTok and content creation, and happy to answer any questions today.
And hey everyone, my name is Jacqueline. I'm originally from the Bay Area in California, and I also went to the University of Michigan with Sabeen, where I was also a business admin major. I interned at a private equity firm as well as an investment bank called Guggenheim Partners, where I'm now a second-year analyst in the TMT division, which is tech, media, and telecom. Outside of work, I love playing golf, tennis, and also being based out in New York. There's a ton of good food, so I love trying out new restaurants.
Wow, y'all are so well-rounded. I love it. Let's start off with kind of a broad question, which is, what is your favorite part about working on Wall Street?
I can start us off with this one. I think for me, working on Wall Street and being in a role like investment banking, I've found it to be like a great learning experience, especially for someone right out of college. At least for my role in particular, I help advise on M&A transactions. So when a company is looking to acquire another company, or when a company is looking to sell themselves, and you're in the room with CEOs, CFOs of large companies, and you get to listen to these conversations, you get to participate in these meetings, you get to help them think about the problems they're facing, you get to hear about how different industries are evolving. And I think as someone right out of college, or if you're an intern, someone who's only 20 and 21, and you get to be a part of these conversations, there's so much to learn. And I think it's really valuable to like be in these rooms and like get that experience where like a lot of roles outside of investment banking or outside of Wall Street, you might not necessarily get this exposure right away.
Yeah, I think kind of just echoing what Jacqueline said, like you just get so much exposure. I think it's a really great opportunity, especially like within banking. Sometimes you'll be in like coverage groups. Like Jacqueline and I are both in tech, media, and telecom. You learn so much about like one particular industry or even a couple of different spaces. And I think that's a really, really incredible part of the job. I think one of my other favorite things is that you usually come in with an analyst class. So you work with like 10 or 15 other 23-year-olds. And I think it's one of those very few jobs where you come right out of college and get to work with people your own age as well. And I think that creates like a lot of camaraderie and a really great way to meet people and just like go through an experience together as well.
I would say my favorite part, like echoing what's being said about like the analyst class, was the people. I just loved like throughout work, like I would just be having coffee chats like all the time during my internship. I just love meeting new people. And my favorite part, honestly, was the people I met. Like I'm still in touch with like all my managers, like a lot of people on my team. And it's really about like finding those allies and people in your workplace that makes like work more worthwhile. And so that I would have to say that's my favorite part about my working experiences.
I would definitely say something that I'm, looking forward to in my internship next summer would definitely be the ability to network with people at the firm and learn from them, especially as a much younger person in the building. But to kind of echo what Sabeen said earlier, kind of getting to dive in on a specific industry and really getting to learn about what's going on within those specific markets is something that I'm really curious about. I know in the TMT sector as well as other industries, that's something that I really want to hop on into. So just getting the opportunity to learn in those sectors is really something that I'm really looking forward to.
Awesome. How did each of you come across your internship or job?
I can start. So I, like mentioned, I went to Michigan. I was in the business school there, and recruiting starts really early there. So I was a sophomore, and all these banks started coming to campus, and we're just hosting company presentations and different events. So for me, I just really at the time didn't know anything about finance, didn't know I wanted to go into it, and didn't come from a finance background. So just for me, that kind of started the process of trying to understand what banking was and what the different roles were within banking, because there's so much outside of investment banking as well. So many things to do on Wall Street. And I think at that point, when companies started to come to campus, I just started connecting with alumni, with different people within school, like seniors that were going back full time, and just kind of started to work through it from there.
I know something that was really big for me was talking to upperclassmen, especially about what their internship experiences were like when they were over the summers. And a lot of it was talking about specific programs that they did and getting me involved in a lot of those, such as diversity programs or freshman insight programs that were really specialized towards getting you your foot in the door. So that's kind of how I explored a lot of the programs that I did, freshman year. And even my internship next summer, was something that really came across through networking with a lot of upperclassmen and kind of putting me in the right position at the right time and learning from them and kind of just listening to what they were telling me and just kind of, taking it as a beginner's mind, essentially, is what I was doing. So that was kind of how I came across it.
I would have to say I also discovered my role at Morgan Stanley through a diversity program. So as part of this program called Girls Who Invest, I don't know if the people listening are familiar with this organization, but it's an amazing organization that connects sophomore college women with they teach them all about finance in the beginning of the summer. And then at the end of the summer, they partner you with the firm based on your interests and based on your match. And so I learned about the program and heard about all that they could offer. And I didn't have any finance background or experience. And I was honestly really intimidated by the industry, but I ended up applying to this program and getting in. And this program has changed my life in so many ways and just opened my eyes in a lot of different, to a lot of different possibilities that I didn't even know I could do. And through that program, they partnered me with Morgan Stanley, and then I ended up liking my experience and returning for a second summer.
For myself, when I was a freshman, I was in our university central student government, and I was working with our treasurer, who's a senior at the time, who we were just working closely to look at our school's finances and different initiatives in that sense. But he had actually interned at Guggenheim when he was a junior, and that's when I first heard about investment banking. And he told me about his summer experience, how he was returning full time, the role, and all of that. And that's when I first learned about the job, because coming into college, I knew I wanted to explore the world of business, but I didn't know what in particular. And from there, that's when I also talked to more upperclassmen like Matthew and a lot of other students that Sabeen and Rita also mentioned, just talking to other people, their networks, learning and participating in different programs. I did the same thing where I did a finance program my sophomore summer and learned about finance internships from there.
I feel like maybe y'all already answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway. When did you know, how did you what did I just ask? When did you know you wanted to pursue a career in finance?
I can take this question first. To be honest, I came into college as a film major. I did not think I would go into the corporate sphere at all. But I realized that I had a very strong interest in being a leader within professional organizations. That was something that that stuck out to me as part of the financial world, is the opportunity to be a leader within different markets. Even the entertainment market was something that piqued my interest. And so that was kind of my segue into understanding how I could apply my past experiences into newer ones. And then just from there, it was a lot about networking and kind of just hearing about what it was like to work in the financial world. That kind of piqued my interest even more in getting to work on things that are changing our culture, changing the way that we interact with money on a daily basis. That sounded really cool to me as well. And from there, I was just continuing to learn more and more about the industry. So that's kind of how I kind of knew that I wanted to go down that path instead of just, and challenging myself really was, what it was all about.
Yeah, I can go next. I actually like also similar to Matthew, like did not come in like really knowing much about business. I was like exploring a bunch of different majors and I got into the business program at school. I think the way that I kind of decided I wanted to go into finance was definitely different than most people's background. I was really interested in entrepreneurship. I had started a couple of businesses in college and I loved learning and I wanted to go into a field where I could like continue to learn about industry landscapes and competitive landscapes, but also like wanted to build a technical skill set, wanted to understand how markets work and how sectors work and different players within a space. So I think for me, going to Wall Street was going to really help bridge that learning gap for me and really just give me a lot of exposure and access to tools that I think we had mentioned earlier as well.
For myself, I came to Babson, and Babson's a really unique university because they only teach business. So when I came here, like there was a lot of different things that I could go into, like operations or marketing or finance. And I like during my freshman year, I went through like a lot of personal financial lessons, and I just like realized I don't know much about like finance in general, like whether it be my own personal finances or just like the industry as a whole and like beyond that. So I took finance classes and I realized like there's a lot of to learn, especially the technical skills is what interested me. And so that's how I realized I wanted to pursue this.
Yeah, I think participating in a bunch of different clubs and organizations on campus is super helpful. So for me, like I mentioned, I was in central student government because I had a slight interest in politics, but through that experience, I realized I wanted something more fast-paced and something a little bit more quantitative. So that's when I also learned about finance. The summer after my freshman year, I actually did a marketing internship because I thought that was something that I might be interested in. I was at a tech company, and while I had a great experience, realized the tech industry is something that I was really interested in. Marketing wasn't necessarily the best role for me. So I think just trying out a bunch of different things when you're a freshman, when you're a sophomore in college, talking to different people was something that really helped me decide that finance and particularly investment banking was what I wanted to try for an internship in my junior summer.
Awesome. How do y'all feel like you stood out when you were applying for these internships and jobs? Because I'm sure it's pretty competitive. So what did you do? Do you have any tips for how to stand out?
I can start with this one. So as I mentioned, like I didn't really come from a traditional finance background, and I was competing with a lot of kids who are in like business routes and investment clubs, and those are really, really incredible resources if you can get into those. I like my whole story was just that I like did entrepreneurship and I was interested in like my business and I think that was something that helped me stand out. So I guess my advice would be like really pursuing things that like are interesting to you can help you really form like an authentic and genuine reason as to why you want to work on Wall Street or why you want to work in finance. And I think it goes a long way when you can speak to like what you're actually interested in and how that connects to the role you're applying to or like the company you want to work for. So I'd say like that was my biggest advice from like a behavioral perspective. And then you can always just like, within your interviews and conversations, like there's a lot of technical resources as well that I recommend students use.
Yeah, I think a lot of students come into college and they're like, I need to get a 4.0, like focus on school, and this will get me the job that I want. But I think a lot of people also forget about putting a face to your name when you're submitting your resume for internships. So I think a way to stand out is to network and have these different phone calls and ask insightful questions with analysts like Sabina and I, or students who are juniors and seniors who have done these internships or even associates at a higher level, and just having conversations with them, even if it's a cold email, even if it's a alum from your school that you've never talked to, definitely reach out to them. And when they see these resumes come through, they'll be like, oh, I talked to Sabine like a few weeks ago. She was asking a lot of good questions. She sounded really interested in this role. And I think that helps you stand out among hundreds of applicants.
I agree with that. Like prior to like the interview process, it's important to network. But I think in terms of like interviewing, I think something that's helped me stick out is my interpersonal skills. So in all honesty, I feel like a lot of finance jobs are like very technical, and all those technical things can be like learned by anyone. But what makes you stick out is you as a person, your personality, your interpersonal skills, your ability to talk to other people. And I think like I could provide all those technical skills, which because you can learn, there's a lot of like online resources, like Sabine said, but like during the interviews, I turned a lot of them into conversations and I connected really well with the people that were interviewing me and like people at the firm. And that's what made me like stick out. And I honestly think that's like gotten me really far, not just in finance, but a lot of places in my life.
Absolutely. I feel like that generally is a good rule of thumb. Be good at talking to people. Cool. Cool. Well, I would love to hear more about what the application process was like for these jobs and internships. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I'll kind of start off with it. So, for when I was recruiting, I kind of started last spring to get the job I got last summer. And I didn't realize how fast-paced finance recruiting is, but I guess that's the nature of the game. And so a lot of it went through a lot of networking beforehand and prepping my resume. And a lot of it was a lot of resume reviews with the Career Center at my school, with people that have worked in specific industries, getting them to look over, what exactly might help me stick out on my resume screening. And once I was submitting that one, a lot of companies tend to do things like high reviews, where they like to put you like, a name to your face or a face to your name. And so that's really helpful. But a lot of it came down to preparation for the interviews. I think, in my personal opinion, really getting my technical skill set prepared for those technical interviews can be kind of hard sometimes. And of course, being sure of yourself and understanding why you do want to work in the field like finance, and really being able to craft your own personal narrative was a huge part of the recruiting process and interview process for me. And I enjoyed it personally. I love and enjoyed getting to talk to people and really kind of explain my background. Similar to Sabeen, I don't come from a very traditional finance background. So a lot of it was, telling my own story through my resume and through my interviews in a way that would allow myself to, shine through not just the person who's just a technical person, but who's truly, Matthew. So that was really part of my interview process and something that I think really kind of helped me get through it to the internship next summer.
I guess if it would be helpful, the recruiting timeline for like Wallstreet internships can kind of be crazy. So as Matthew mentioned, for like investment banking or some of the other roles, like I remember I started recruiting like November of my sophomore year for my junior year summer internship. And like throughout maybe like 8 months before I got my offer, there's a lot of different like opportunities. Like every single one has its different recruiting process, but usually it starts your sophomore year. For me, it was like a lot of companies would come to campus. I would get to meet them, learn about their programs. I'd be able to like get a bunch of contacts to talk to. So following those on campus visits, I would just like network and talk to people at the firm, really put like a face to my name, just get my name out there and continue those conversations. I think also, and maybe Jacqueline, Ridha, and Matt might have a better idea of this. I didn't go through a diversity program, but a lot of times diversity programs also are happening a little bit earlier than the normal recruiting timeline. So you do have an opportunity to go through those as well. I wasn't able to get any, but it was totally fine. I went through the normal timeline, just got my offer a little bit later. But yeah, I think that's just like the general overview. So usually recruiting can happen your sophomore year and then maybe a bit into your early junior year, depending on the different roles you're looking at.
I was going to say, do you guys feel like we covered that one? Or does anybody have anything else to add?
I was just going to, sorry, go ahead, Jacqueline.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say my process was really, really different because I got into the industry through Girls Who Invest, and like I can't promote like this organization anymore, but like the organization has helped me a lot with the whole process. They teach you how to like navigate that space, and they have two programs, a summer program and then an online program. And I think if I did the summer program, but even in the online program, they give you like a lot of resources as to like how to connect with companies and like how to approach this application process.
Yeah, just real quick on the diversity recruiting front, because like Sabeen mentioned, that's what I personally went through when I was a sophomore. It's a little bit earlier, so the application process is a little bit more rushed. But what I really appreciated is as part of these diversity programs, you typically get to come out to the company for a day and spend a whole afternoon with the firm, and you get to attend different presentations, maybe do a luncheon with different analysts. And for me, that was super insightful just to learn a little bit more about different firms and how they differ from each other and just get a little bit more insight. Whereas in a typical process, you'll just come out to the firm or the firm will come to you for a few interviews. So that's a little bit different for the application process if you are a diversity candidate and are interested in going through a diversity timeline.
Interesting. And we will talk a little bit more about diversity and inclusion and that kind of stuff later. But first, I want to ask you, if you were to start this whole process all over, say you're a freshman coming into college, what would you do first?
I'll go ahead and start on this one. I think that's a big question. I think something that would really help me is to I'd be more sure of myself and more confident, specifically in the process, especially when I came in not knowing at all what finance recruiting timelines are like or what it takes to have, the right resume, the right technical skills. I felt, I felt very overwhelmed, to be honest. And I felt a little that I was maybe not qualified for the positions that I was trying to apply for. And being sure of myself and my background and my experience is something that I would tell my younger self to kind of, take as a piece of advice that could really help throughout the recruiting process to make it less stressful and to make it more of an intentional process rather than just trying to get, that job that you saw an upperclassman getting. And something that, not only works for the firm that you're going for, but works for you as a whole, because this process is, just as important for you as it is for the firm. So I would tell myself to be more confident in yourself and your experiences, and to know that you got this, So, yeah.
I'd agree with that. Additionally, I'd also add that I think with finance and a lot of other industries, like it can be very overwhelming because there's so many jobs that you can apply to and so many hire reviews you have to complete and so many people you can network with. So my biggest piece of advice would be to take things one step at a time and just take everything intentionally, like Matt said.
Adding on to that a little bit, I think it's really easy to get caught up in what other people are interested in. I'm sure if you're in a business school, you might have some friends who are also interested in recruiting for internships on Wall Street. And you'll hear about some people getting interviews early or some people getting certain coffee chats. And I think it's really important just to remember what you're interested in, what you're looking for out of this process, what are your goals, and focusing on yourself, because it is really easy to just be in a room where a lot of people are talking about different things going on and feeling like you need to do something or you have to attend a company's presentation, even if you aren't that interested and you have your own interests. So I think that's something important to keep in mind. It's definitely hard to do, but if I could do this process and start all over again, I think that's something that I just try to remind myself every day.
I think kind of echoing like Jacqueline's point as well. I think just like being open-minded and like I think when you're going through this process, like especially with Wall Street internships, like they start super early on. Like you could do like end of freshman year or sophomore year, you're so young. So just like really being open-minded, like looking at every opportunity, like evaluating everything you're interested in, and just really making sure you're casting a wide net and really exploring all these different opportunities instead of kind of being in this business school environment where if everyone's doing something, I have to do it too. It's just like really making sure you're like authentic and intentional about what you want to do, and really like if that's something else, like pursuing that interest as well.
That's really good advice. Thanks, y'all. On another less heartwarming note, I've been watching the show Industry, which is probably the least heartwarming show I've ever seen. And so this is a personal question for me, which is, what is your work-life balance like? Like, what is it like in the Wall Streets? Tell me really what your lives are like.
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty tough. I think this is definitely one of the jobs, at least where it's like harder to have a work-life balance. I think knowing that going in will definitely like well prepare you. I think in terms of like hours, I mean, technically you're online from like 9 a.m. to midnight, but I think a lot of it is like you're expected to be available. You may not be working straight through 9 a.m. to midnight, but even if you have like a break in your evening, like you maybe go get dinner or like hang out with some friends, but you may need to go back online if someone needs something. So it is a bit crazy. It is a bit time consuming. But that being said, like company culture goes a long way. Like if you find a place where you have like good people you can spend time with, or who are able to like give you time off as well, like I think it can be pretty manageable. And I like definitely also you get protected Saturdays. So you have your, part of your weekend always to pursue what you want to do. I know that sounds a little scary, but I promise you it's not that bad. And I think one of the best parts about it is that because you're going through this job with like so many other people your age, you don't really feel alone, even in those really like stressful work hour situations.
Yeah, so I personally never watched the show Industry, but I think it is important to be aware of the realities of banking. So like Sabeen said, we're not going to lie, it's not always easy. Some weeks are definitely busier than others where you're working upwards 80, 90 hours a week. Some weeks are a little bit easier. You may have to cancel weekend plans, but I think just being aware of this going in is super important, and talking to analysts about their experience if this is a concern. But like Sabeen mentioned, it's great that we're always working on a team. Generally, if I'm up a little bit later, my associate's up with me. We're chit-chatting on the side as we're doing work. If I'm in the office, there's generally a few other analysts. We'll like play some music. We'll order dessert at night, things like that. And I think that's good to keep up morale. But I think it's also just, I try to maintain my personal interests and hobbies outside of work. And even though I might have a busy week, if it's a Saturday morning I'm free, I try to make time for myself and remember to like still carry out these interests and have time for friends and all of that. So it's definitely manageable, but again, like some weeks are busier than others, some nights are busier than others, and it ebbs and flows.
I think it can offer a different perspective because I didn't work in banking. So I worked in wealth management for the last 2 summers. And I was just going to say there are a lot of different career paths on Wall Street that aren't banking that I would consider, like, encourage people to also like consider and look into as well. I would say in wealth management, like, yes, my some days are busier, but overall compared to like my peers that were in IB, that I definitely had a better work-life balance, and it was more sort of like a regular 9 to 5. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that was a hard question. I know it can be complicated to like say the truth without, misrepresenting anything. But I really appreciate your candor. I think Matthew has a demo that he is going to show us. Matthew, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to add it to the stream and then you can narrate over it.
Awesome. Sounds great. I had a really good time trying out Adobe Express. Definitely excited to show you guys what I worked on. So I'm currently actually on the board for a business club here at Columbia. And so we do a weekly newsletter. And actually, we're hosting an event in a couple weeks about venture capital. And so I wanted to kind of try it out and put this in our newsletter and use Adobe Express to kind of design our graphics. And so what you're seeing me here essentially is just doing this like little fresh new look, trying it out for our association. And what I did here was kind of just like using all the tools that Adobe kind of had for me there. I really loved their text options. They had a lot of different font sizes, a lot of different font types, really fun to play around with. And I actually ended up choosing this little, I guess like, it's called it's like Xanta, I think is what it's called, but it just, I don't know, it looked like a newspaper and I thought it would like kind of add a nice little aesthetic to our promotional materials. And so that was kind of what I decided on for this thing right here. And I also really enjoyed all of the different options for formatting that they had on this Express tool. So obviously you can see me playing around with the sizing on here. I had quite a couple times where I needed to try to figure out the best sizing. And then of course I decided on a lot of different gradients that were available as well and things like that. So this is something that I wanted to kind of showcase my insights into venture capital events. And then you'll just see me here talking a little bit more or showing a little bit more of the colors and playing around with it. Something that's definitely different than what we've been doing is we've been doing a lot more based on like PowerPoint. And so this is something that stuck out to me as offering a wide range of tools available to people who can kind of get better at graphic design. And it also offered a lot of like different add-ins that you can put on there. So you can see me, I put this little newspaper background, I think is what I selected for my thing to kind of add a little bit more creative touch to it, I guess you could say. And so I really like that option from Express there. But yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, the final product. I'm finishing touches on there. But this will be going in our newsletter for this week. So thank you to Adobe Express for allowing me to try it out. I'll definitely be using it in the future.
That is awesome. I love it so much. Wait, I'm just going to watch it till the end. It's almost over.
Yeah, it's almost done.
Now, I love how easy it is to just make graphics like that for whatever you need. Cool. I have one more question for you all, and then I think we're going to move to audience questions. So we talked a little bit about diversity and inclusion initiatives earlier, and we have a pretty diverse group of people on the stream with us right now. Would you say that this reflects your company's racial makeup, and do your companies have diversity and inclusion initiatives?
I guess I can start with this. So I don't think like this panel is awesome. I don't think it's super representative of like at least my company's diversity like makeup. So typically you'll see a lot more men and specifically like white men within these spaces. I do think my analyst class was about 50-50 men and women. So you will see more women at the junior level. I think unfortunately, and this might be more investment banking specifically, it's such a high turnover job. So most people will do a 2-year program and then move into something else. And so when you have fewer women and you have such a high turnover rate, you tend to see less women at the senior level. So so far, I think at least in my group, we have, far fewer female VPs and not, I think maybe only like one female director relative to several men. So I think that definitely makes things difficult. But the bank does have an incredible women's leadership network that I've taken advantage of, and several other resources for other diversity groups or allies to those groups as well.
Yeah, I think echoing what Sabina said, I'd say particularly investment banking is still a very non-diverse industry. There's been a lot of initiatives with diversity programs, different networks that all our firms have. So there's definitely an effort being made. And like Sabeen said, at the junior level, you're definitely seeing a change where there's more women coming in the fields, there's more people of color, there's just people from different backgrounds that are getting more exposure to what investment banking is and having an interest. So I think that's been really good. And at the firm itself, we have women pods. So we have mentors at this more senior level. We have women networks with other analysts as well across different offices. So I think it's been a really good opportunity to take a part of that. But like Sabeen also mentioned, there's a lot more work to be done in this space. So I think it'll be really interesting, and I'm really curious to see the progress that will be made in the future. And I think having panels like this and seeing faces like ours talk about our experience in the job and just getting the word out there with different networks and all of that, hopefully will continue to make a change in this industry.
Absolutely. Does anyone else want to add anything before we move on? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move to audience questions now. We've gotten quite a few. Thank you, audience. Elizabeth, who's our mod today, asked, before university, did you imagine you would eventually find yourself at an internship on Wall Street? Did you see this for yourself when you were 10 years old? Is this what you believed and dreamed of?
I think we're all laughing a little bit because I think the answer is no. I came from like the Bay Area in California, and that's like a very tech heavy world. So when I came into college as a business major, I was like, I'm going to work in the tech space, but on the business front, because I don't really like the science part. But I think, again, like just talking to different people and learning about different experiences, I was like, moving to New York sounds cool. Sounds like a really cool city to be after graduation. The job itself seems pretty interesting. I think I can learn a lot. So no, but I think there's like opportunities for like everyone to learn about these different roles through networks. And like, you can definitely connect with us on the panel if you are interested to see if this is the role for you. But no, like this is not where I saw myself as a kid or as a freshman in college, but I'm happy with like my experience so far, and I've learned like a ton.
Yeah, I agree. Like I definitely didn't see myself here when I was like really young. I also like came from like my parents are doctors, all their friends are doctors. So I actually like thought I was gonna be a doctor for a while and then realized med school was a thing. I was like, I can't do this. But no, I mean, I've really enjoyed my experience. I think one of the cool things about Wall Street jobs is like you can do them for the rest of your life. If you want to, you can like climb the corporate ladder. And then that, you know, there are some people that are my managing directors and our senior bankers that have been there since they were analysts. But there's also a lot of opportunities that you can use these Wall Street internships as like jumping off points for. Like a lot of people, you know, will go into tech, go into industry, will go into other spaces within finance and investing. So I think even if you're not sure if this is what you want to do for long term, that's like totally okay. Like there's so many other opportunities that you can use the space to go for. And this is a really great learning opportunity, if anything.
I also wanted to add that, yeah, similarly, I also didn't know this is something I wanted to do. And I feel like it's very intimidating listening to people speak about their experiences in finance because it seems like so many people know so much more than you do. But I can even remember like when I was a sophomore, like I had no idea what I was doing. Like even going into like my first day of the internship, I was so nervous. Like I was like, I feel like I know nothing. I feel like I don't know enough. But now like looking back in hindsight, that is totally fine to like not know what you're doing, to not know that this is the industry for you, because you end up learning so much more just from the experience of actually working. So I would just say that to anyone that ever feels discouraged with this industry.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. I think when I was like a kid, I probably thought I was going to be an Alabama football player because I'm from there. But clearly because that was what I thought could like change the world maybe. But I'm very much not that. But it's okay because I still do think I'm still getting a way to impact the world in some way. So I guess I still ended up where I thought I would be doing, you know, figuratively, but maybe not so much literally. But that's still part of like the journey I think I'm on, is determining the best way that I can help the world out and help impact it. And so that's kind of what I'm most excited about, you know, being here at this current moment, even though that's not exactly like literally what I thought I would be doing. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like life always takes you where you need to go. So keep the faith, everyone. Nilasia asked, how did you get through hard times during college or your current jobs, because those sound hard too, and staying engaged with your classes or your jobs or your internships?
So I think in both situations, it was having like good people around you that could help you. I actually lived with Jacqueline for 3 years. And so when I was going through like recruiting and we were like also in the same business program, like I would just literally go into a room and like talk to her, rant, cry, whatever it was. And I think just having someone like in your classes or just around you that knows what you're going through is so helpful. And especially during the recruiting process, like my current roommate and I met when I was recruiting for investment banking, like just having a group of people to like bounce ideas off of, like rant with, like it just helps to like, I think with those really hard times. And I think now, especially being in a job that's super stressful, like having an analyst class and people that are in the office with you late that you can just kind of like talk to about what you're going through and understand what you're going through has just been so helpful in getting through those really stressful moments as well.
Something that I do that helps me is I feel like a lot of times I do things in the short term that might not make me the happiest or that I'm not enjoying the most, but I usually write down my long-term goals like 6 months or like a year out. And then I remind myself like why I'm doing something, even if it's like something that I'm struggling through or something I'm not really enjoying. And that keeps me motivated and keeps me pushing forward to achieve my longer term goal.
Yeah, I really like what Ridha said. Kind of like staying the course and seeing the final end product is something that always helps me. And then also, additionally, just like having hobbies outside of the recruiting is really big for me. And staying true to those and really pushing myself in every other aspect of my life, not just paying attention to the one part of my life, and kind of just being as well rounded as I can be. But I really like the idea of staying the course, and that kind of helps internal motivation keep it running.
Absolutely. Thank you for those answers. We have another cool question from Elizabeth. Has social media played a key role in getting your internships? Okay, I feel like the answer is no, but some of you do have social media, so talk about how that's going.
So I kind of like got into finance TikTok on accident, was like really not supposed to be posting something, and I did. But I honestly like it didn't help me get my internship because obviously TikTok wasn't really a thing when I was recruiting. But I honestly like am really glad that when I talk about like my day in the life or what I'm doing on and showing it on TikTok, I really hope it helps create transparency in an industry that doesn't necessarily have a lot. And I hope it's helpful seeing like a woman of color in a role in finance in a very not diverse space. So I got a lot of messages and I get a lot of questions, and so I hope I'm helping people like through social media to understand if they want to do this, and it's been a great experience. But yeah, that's kind of my social media experience, but on the flip side.
I've been watching Sabine's videos. They keep coming up on my For You page and I love them. And I would say social media has been such a powerful tool with career because it allows a lot of transparency and it gives more power to the people rather than the firms, and like showing like how it's actually like to work there. Like people talk about their salaries, people talk about all sorts of things on career TikToks. And I have a TikTok as well. And I posted some content while I was interning at Morgan Stanley this past summer. And it was really nice, like sharing my experiences and even sharing like how I got to where I am. And I also like similarly to Sabine get a lot of DMs and people asking me how I did what I did. And it's just fun to help out and like reach a network that you could have never reached without social media.
Awesome. I agree. I think I don't know. I think social media has definitely helped me learn more about the industry. I wouldn't say it helped me get my internship, but it definitely made me like understand what I was getting into 100%. And I'm thankful for it. Definitely made it way more accessible.
Yeah, you get some behind the scenes access that you couldn't have gotten otherwise. Binta asked, do you have any finance or money management advice for college students?
I would say that it's important to create a personal budget. This is something I learned like my freshman year. These are like pretty basic things. Like I like to like account for every single dollar that I spend. I have like Excel sheets. I learned how to open up a credit card my freshman year. Like it's just so many different small personal finance lessons that you should learn. There's a lot of podcasts. Like I think there's like the Financial Feminist podcast, like different things you can listen to in order to like get your personal finances sorted out.
Yeah, like Rita, maybe this is just us being financy people. I also am a spreadsheet girl, so I also track all like my expenses every month, and this is something that I started back in college too. It's just something I do at the end of every week to see like where I'm spending my money, if I should maybe stop buying so much clothes that month. And I think it's really important, these like small habits for when you're older and you start making like real life adult purchases or you have to pay rent every month. I think also for myself, like being at college, like there's a ton of different resources. I took a class on tax accounting. I know it sounds really boring, and a lot of it was boring, but we also talked about personal finances and taxes, and opening up retirement accounts and all of that. And there's a lot of YouTube videos, podcasts that I also watched in my free time or like talk to friends about who are more interested in the space, just to learn a bit more about personal finances and wealth management for myself, that I think are definitely important to keep in mind.
Awesome. Nishay asked, how powerful would you say LinkedIn is in connection to getting internships? Wall Street seems intimidating. Yes, it does, Nishay. I'm with you.
I think LinkedIn is a great resource for finding people. When I was in college, I honestly was just like using LinkedIn to see like where people worked, like filtering through alumni, to kind of like get the name. You can DM them. I do get LinkedIn DMs. I think that's like a great way to reach out to people. Like you might as well shoot your shot. But also I would use LinkedIn to find like people at the company I was interested in. And then I would like guess the email format now that I have their name, which I think was my recruitment process and my way of using LinkedIn. But also it's like a really great tool to connect with people, to learn a lot, and to see what everyone's up to as well. And I know that this is a super intimidating industry, but I promise you, like, it's just, you'll be totally fine. Like, you just have to put your best foot forward and be persistent. And I promise things will be okay.
Yeah, what I'll add on to that, I think when I was using LinkedIn, and I'm still using it now to like help new network and things, it's a really good way to get the conversation going, and to kind of show your interest in that specific industry. It's a great way to meet people, like Sabeen said, at a specific company. I know specifically from wherever college you may go to, or whatever school you go to, if you have a common interest, that's a great way to connect with people in industries or companies that you're really interested in. And I think it's an awesome way to kind of present yourself in an amazing opportunity, and to kind of show yourself and kind of get more insight about the industry as a whole. It's a great way to meet people, and I really think it's an awesome way to kind of get your foot in the door, as Sabeen said.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Elizabeth asked another question. For the recent grads, did you find it was hard to get an internship or job after graduation? And was it harder than getting an internship as a student?
So both Jacqueline and I got our internships as students, and so then we just returned for a full time. I think it just depends on the bank. So, for us, we take, or from what I've seen, our goal is to bring as many interns as possible back. So that's usually how that translates into full time. I think it's definitely possible to like intern and get a job after graduation. I think that you definitely would have to do a little bit more networking, and have to kind of find openings at banks specifically. But a lot of times, like sometimes interns won't come back and they'll have openings for full time, and you can like really work your way in there. But again, it would just take networking and like being very, very persistent about it as well.
Yeah, I've had some friends who have decided to switch banks, so stay within investment banking, but move around after graduation. So when they've like worked for a few months at one, moving to another. And I think this is where networking is super important, and utilizing your network or utilizing LinkedIn and having these phone calls. So I'd say it's a little bit tougher just because the path is not as set out and the timeline's more on your own, and having to balance that with having a full-time job. But there's definitely a lot of opportunities if you want to move within investment banking or move within finance, because you have had experience at a place already, or maybe you've had internships in the past as well.
Awesome. We got one more question from Jamie. Hey, Jamie. What would you say is your absolute favorite part and worst part about doing what you do? I feel like Wall Street has a stigma, some dealing with success, but also cutthroat mentality. So it'd be great to get insight on the reality of it. We did answer this question a little bit, but I do like the idea of like, what's your favorite part and your least favorite part of your jobs?
I guess I can start. So my favorite part that I mentioned, I think earlier, but was like, I love being able to work with people my own age. I think it makes it a much like lighter environment. I think to kind of the second part of Jamie's question, I know there's a stigma around things being really cutthroat and snaky. I definitely, when I was starting my internship, was really scared that that's something that would happen. But I think honestly, you have to just find a culture that works really well for you. And I think one of the best parts about like working with other people your age is that like everyone's really helpful. Everyone's in the same spot. And if I don't know something, it's not that hard to like ask someone else that's my own age for help. It doesn't feel like there's like a hierarchy there. It feels very flat. So I think that's like one of my favorite parts. I do think one of the hardest parts about this job is just like, it takes a lot out of you. You do have to be very available. When people need things, you need to hop online to like send something off, kind of regardless of what the situation is. So I think you do just kind of have to constantly be on your game. And I think that can be really difficult sometimes to manage. But it is part of like the kind of the career and the opportunity when you're like learning so much on Wall Street.
I think I also touched on this for my favorite part of the job. It's really the learning experience and all the exposure that you get right out of college. I'm working on like 4 different projects at once, all in different areas of the tech, media, and telecom space. And I felt like I've just learned so much, and I've had so many diverse experiences in my role, working with different teams, different senior folks, different industry people. I think for me, the hardest part is I can never be away from my phone for more than a few hours. So my screen time is probably pretty bad and my eyes are probably pretty bad. I'd love like just to step away from my phone. But again, like you do have to be available. So your phone is always with you, and it's hard to go offline if you want to unplug. But I think at the same time, people are respectful of your time. If you have family commitments, if you have personal commitments, I think having like personally, like the culture where I work, I have a really good relationship with the associate that I work with. So the person right above me, and I think that's super helpful.
I touched on this in the beginning of the live stream, but my favorite part about my job was definitely the people. I had a really great experience like both summers, and one of my first summer I worked with a team in Budapest, and I ended up studying abroad in Budapest and meeting a lot of the people in my team while I was abroad, and I became friends with them. And I just know a lot of the people that I work with like on a personal level outside of work, and it's just so nice to have people that support you regardless of like what you do with your career, and like they're just really big allies in my life still. And then I would say my least favorite part about my job last summer was working in New York City. I know a lot of people like go to New York City because of the appeal and the lifestyle, but for me, I don't know if that's like some place I can live very long term. I don't think I'm cut out for it because I grew up in Texas and Tennessee. It's just like not the right fit for me with working in finance.
I will say, speaking to internshiping, like in general, working as an intern, I think my favorite part, especially the firm I worked in last summer, was definitely just getting to be kind of the youngest person in a firm full of like so many more experienced people than you. Because I really loved getting to learn from people that were around me. It kind of opened my eyes to kind of how different the world can be, especially from my small perspective. So that was really something I really personally enjoyed. And of course, like everyone here has said, is getting to network with the people and the team that you're working with. I think for me, my least favorite part about my internship last summer was just parts of it were sometimes remote. That's kind of how the one that I worked in specifically worked in. And I love being in person. And so sometimes kind of I felt a little isolated at times. But that was something that I think next summer I'm very much looking forward to like changing my pace 100%. Is getting more in the office and being with people a lot more. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank y'all. We have one last question. And I think this applies to all of you, but I think I'll let Matthew start since he is a film major. How are you able to stay the course of creativity while in this career? And Nishay asked that, and she mentioned you specifically, Matthew. So if you wouldn't mind leading off with that.
Yeah, so something that has definitely really helped me is, I don't know, merging my interests that I've had from the past. I've been seeing how I can connect those with the specific sectors that I may be assigned to. Specifically, I know with programs that I've done in the past that have dealt with TMT, that's really helped me kind of be motivated in learning more about them because I come from that background anyways. And I think another thing is I still have the great advantage of being in college, so I have the opportunity to still network with different amounts of clubs and do things on campus that are not always finance related. Like I said, I do marketing for my business club. I don't do like finance for the business club. I just do the creative side of things for the business club. So that's a really good way for me to interact with my more creative side and stay in touch. And I think being in college kind of helps me kind of stay that course specifically. And I've been able to kind of take advantage of it while I still have the time, definitely. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think in terms of creativity, like not having so much time, I think I just kind of really need to have a creative outlet. So I think just like what I'll do is like, I mean, for me, it's like TikTok, which is this like very low stakes thing. I honestly just like sometimes in the morning, like we'll just get up like 45 minutes before work and kind of like think through what I want to post or put a video together. So I think it's just like making that like little time in my day for something that makes me happy is just how I stay, creative. And I just really need that creative outlet. And that's really all it is for me.
I love that. Okay. If no one else wants to add anything to that question, I'll move on to the last question. So final question for you all. what is one piece of advice you'd give someone starting out in this career?
I feel like my piece of advice would be to people who are applying or looking to get into this industry. It can be really intimidating because not everyone has the same privileges and access to opportunities. So I would say that even if you may not have an internship in finance or something that's really relevant to these like major big corporations, you should still do what you find interesting and what you find intellectually curious. So for me, my first 2 years of college, I interned in completely random things. I worked for a random tech startup, and then I worked for the Texas House of Representatives. And I did a lot of odd jobs around campus, but I was able to learn a lot from all these jobs and all these experiences and tell really captivating stories that helped me throughout the interview process, that helped me stick out as a candidate. And so I would just tell people that you shouldn't be discouraged just because you haven't been able to intern at a bank or been able to intern at like some financial institution. Just do whatever you find intellectually curious, and people will be attracted and captivated by that curiosity and want to hire you and want to work with you in the future.
Yeah, I'll just echo that point really clearly. I think taking advantage of all the opportunity, especially if you are a student, is a really good way to kind of explore different interests that you may have. It's also a really good way to explore skills that you didn't think would help you in future careers. I think, especially when you're looking back on maybe you're designing a resume or something, you can always say, oh, I did this marketing thing for this dance club. How would that help me at a job at a bank? And surprisingly, you can find a way that skills that you had can transfer over into other things. And so taking advantage of being intentional the moment that you have is really important, but also can help you look forward and see, I can use this down the line somewhere. You never know, it might help you.
I guess something that I wish that or advice that I would give people starting out, whether it's like in college or like starting off as like a recent grad in this job. I think that there were so many times that I was like so stressed and so upset if like didn't get an interview or like a phone call didn't go well, or like even if I was like something happened at work. I think just like honestly taking the time to like enjoy life and what you're going through. I think there's so many times in college where like I like instead of stressing about whether or not I was gonna like hear back on an interview, like I wish I had just like spent more time with friends or gone to a football game or just really just enjoying those experiences. Or even if you're a recent grad, like enjoying New York City. I think we get so caught up in like everything needing to be amazing and perfect and stressed out about it. Like everything's gonna be okay. And I think if I look back, if I knew back then that I was going to be fine and end up like exactly where I am, regardless of stressing or not stressing over the outcome, like I probably would have enjoyed it more. So like telling yourself that, like everything's going to be fine, like just kind of continue on the course and just do the best you can. I think that would have been the advice I would have given myself or anyone else.
Yeah, my one piece of advice for people starting out is it's totally okay to make mistakes. You come into an internship and you've never worked a day on the job, you've taken classes, but you don't really know how things apply in real life. It's totally okay to ask questions. You definitely should ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking questions to your associate if they explain something to you really quickly and you don't understand everything on the first time. And it's okay if you send something and there's mistakes in it. There's a huge learning curve and people are really aware of that. And people are very supportive of you. So I'd say when I was an intern, I was so scared of doing something wrong. And I obviously did make mistakes and it was totally okay. And I learned from them and I just remember not to make them again. So I'd say that would be my one piece of advice for everyone starting out in a role like this.
I love that. I feel like whenever I ask that question to students in this series, I'm always like taking it in and reminding myself of like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be stressing. Oh yeah, it's okay to make mistakes. I'm like, this advice applies to any age, any role that you're in, any field. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us. We really appreciate it. Audience, we are wrapping up, but we would love your feedback on this event so that we can make them better for you in the future. Please take a moment to fill out our post-event survey. We're going to drop the link in the chat. And with that said, it wraps it up for the session. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you, Ridha, Matthew, Sabeen, and Jacqueline for joining us this evening. We really appreciate your time and your advice. Find the full episodes of past events on our Young Creators YouTube playlist and find out about upcoming events. You can join our Adobe Creative Community Discord server. We're going to put the links to that in the chat too. Again, thank you everyone for watching and thank you to our panelists for coming and have a great evening, everyone. Bye.